Well, I want to put out this video about either we're going into a mini ice age or a major ice age. I know there's not much talk about going into a major ice age, but I guess this graph illustrates the best. Normally, well, let me say the warm interglacial periods are, the graph is saying at 10,000 years approximately. Actually, they're approximately 10,500 years. We're actually at 11,000 years, which is 500 years late on, going into the next major ice age. But there's several things like coalescing at the same time here. It's almost definite that we're going into the mini ice age. The sunspots have been measured, solar activity. Winter is over here in the northern hemisphere, and there's been some spots where, well, let me put it this way: there's portions of the Earth that get hotter during a mini ice age or a major ice age, and there's other places most places in the Earth get much colder. Because I know there's going to be people telling me, well, there's a record temperature in India, there was record temperatures in California or Alaska last winter, and actually, that's true. Alaska gets warmer during a major ice age. That's a fact. Okay? Now, we're actually overdue for the major ice age, but it's a guarantee we're going into one or the other, the mini ice age or the major ice age. If we're going into the major ice age, it's going to be 90,000 years, and it's not the whole planet that gets frozen over. It's everything that's near the equator is still going to be pretty much the same way. And ice sheets don't get formed right away. It takes hundreds of years before ice sheets become formed, and they grow and they retreat. And actually, Alaska is going to be one of the places, especially southern Alaska, is going to be one of the places that's going to be free of glaciers, even if we go into a major ice age. Now, I want to get it. I also want to say, if you want to get into more of this information, look at the channel Adapt 2030. It gives a lot of specific information about what's going on throughout the world, of all the world records we've been having for snowfall, and even now. I mean, it's in the southern hemisphere. Now has, it's wintertime down there, and it's summertime up here in the northern hemisphere, or almost summertime. But they're already going into record cold on Eastern Island and all that. But the USA is actually going to be pretty much screwed for food production. But I want to actually get into, I'm going to get into that, but also want to get into other things, because your overall health actually depends upon the sun. And if it's too cold out, you're not going to be exposing your skin to the sun and getting that vitamin D and other benefits from the sunlight. And I just want to elaborate a little more on this subject, because this is one of the things that, well, it could be very useful information for, say, next winter, because, we're in the summertime now, but I think we're going to be getting into longer and longer winters. Now, that may sound depressing, but I'm going to tell you there's a reason why it's depressing. It's not just because your car gets stuck in the snow and you got to drive to work or something like that. If there's a major glacier, well, that'll take a while. It'll become very apparent, because there'll be a lot of problems with agriculture before there's like a glacier in the northern United States or something like that. There'll be severe winters and things like that. But let me put it this way about the sun. The sun is going to be your savior. Now, maybe during the time of a major ice age, there's going to be more cosmic rays. It'll be more dangerous to expose your skin to the sun, but you still need the sun. But what I have to say about this is use artificial sun. Use artificial sunlight. And not only do you produce a lot more vitamin D on your skin, you could be producing 10, 20,000 international units of vitamin D on your skin. There's a number of other things that they find out that the sunlight does to the body. And what it actually does is it increases your immune system response, not only due to the vitamin D, but to other things, because the light is actually hitting inside the bloodstream. The visible light is actually getting into the bloodstream, and it's also producing beta endorphins, which is something that helps with depression. You know, in the wintertime, a lot of people are like, oh, God, I'm so depressed. I can't wait for this winter to be over with. You know, another snow. Whoa. You know, they're longing for the warmth. I mean, it's kind of cool cool. I guess, excuse the pun. It's kind of cool at first. You know, you're thinking, oh, wow, the snow is here and it's wintertime. And after a while, you get sick of it if it goes too long, right? But part of that is because you're lacking the sunlight. Because when you get up in the anywhere from like in the United States, from anywhere north of Atlanta, the sunlight is so indirect in the wintertime. It doesn't matter how long you stay outside, you don't get any vitamin D production on your skin, and obviously your skin is not exposed. But you know, if we're actually going into a problem where we're going to have longer winters or maybe even a major ice age, the human race will survive as long as they have the knowledge, and it won't be a bad survival at all. It'll just be different. You know, it could be fun. I mean, you can have all kinds of, as long as because, like I said, the main reasons you get this wintertime blues and stuff like that is because of the lack of sunlight on your skin, not only not producing the vitamin D, but also that beta endorphins. And, you know, they used to have back in the day before, the pharmaceutical, they used to actually treat people with sunlight for like tuberculosis, psychiatric disorders, just to bring them back for the flu with sunlight. They called it solariums. And then sometime in the 1940 or onward, it became more of a pharmaceutical thing, where even if they did prescribe something, it would only be vitamin D2, which is the plant-based form. But the thing is, if we actually have the technology available to us to store power or get power from the sun or get power from the tides, you know, actually that's something that's totally been swept under the rug. A lot of people talk about wind power, solar power. There's tide power, which can be far more efficient, but they won't do it. And it's actually the same type of thing that creates power in submarines, in some ways, for some submarines. But also through light, the spectrum of light. There's also ancient India medicine that uses color light therapy. I put out a video on this, but some of the things that have been proven is like the blue light spectrum will help heal burns on the skin. And it's actually the visible light that you see. It's actually just a colored filter on an incandescent bulb, but what you're actually doing is concentrating a certain wavelength on the skin, and actually the light penetrates into the bloodstream. It doesn't work if if it's blocked by clothing, but if it's directly on the skin, it can work. Actually, there's a whole science to this, and they call it snake oil today, but it was something that existed back in the 1800s up to about the 1940s or 50s. But it's probably not snake oil. But I have to say that one of the biggest problems we're going to have if we go into not only a mini ice age, but say a major ice age, is going to be the lack of sunlight on our skin, which will benefits us not only with the beta endorphins, the immune system response, and also the UV radiation that gets into the blood, and also the vitamin D production. I'm sure science doesn't know everything, how it benefits us, because one of the things you can look up scientifically, the further you get away from the equator, whether it's going north or south where there's less direct sunlight, the more incidence of cancer, the more incidence of lung disease, heart disease, multiple sclerosis, diabetes, you name it. More disease. And they theorize that it's a lot due to vitamin D, but because you're not exposed to the sun, you're not getting a lot of vitamin D. But it could be a number of other things, because there is a number of other things where sunlight is actually good for health. not just for vitamin D production and not even just for beta endorphin production to help improve your mood, but other things. And I don't think they fully understand. So one of the things we can actually do to protect ourselves from, say a mini ice age or a major ice age is to have adequate clean energy sources, which could be solar panels. It could be solar panels because they're getting greatly improved. I'd imagine by the time this really hits, maybe in 5 years or a few years, it's going to start hitting. Some of the technology with the solar panels is going to be, maybe 30-40% efficient, where you can probably power a whole dwelling with this. Though quite expensive, it still would do the job, and you can have artificial lighting that's as with the sun. Actually, I would recommend this type of thing to do anytime in the winter time because of when you're not out in the, even if you're out in the sun in the wintertime, your skin is not hardly exposed. And number two is, even if it was, you would not get all the benefits the same way in the summer because the angle of the sun is too much at a oblique angle. But this is going to be a major problem as we go into the mini ice age or the major ice age, and I'm actually suspecting that it's going into a major ice age. I don't want to think this because to me that's depressing, but it probably won't affect where I am because I'm in Florida, because it might be somewhat colder, but not like crazy cold. It won't be ice, that's for sure. But the thing is, there's a lot you could do with this. Not only did I show the greenhouses that are made maybe commercial, but you can also make greenhouses on an individual basis. And it's just a matter of getting out there and doing it. And that'll keep your garden going for, in much more severe temperature weather. But one of the things I think that you're going to have a real problem with, though, is as this comes about, and I don't want this to be a depressing video because it's just going to be a change, man. I mean, it's sort of like, I'm not 100% sure if we're going into a major ice age. I'm beginning to suspect it, though. The mini ice age is a definite. And I know there's going to be people arguing with me about the global warming, and I'm saying, yeah, I do think that mankind is screwing up the environment by clear-cutting too many forests, and, especially down in South America, Brazil, where the Amazon is, but this is going to happen no matter what, because the sun is the biggest influence on the climate, period. I'm one for conservation of nature, but the sun is the biggest influence on climate, period. It's like we're not influencing the temperature of the water that much by our activities at all. And as a matter of fact, I know Al Gore put out stuff about the CO2 being linked to the warming. Well, actually what goes on is the warming creates more life, which creates more CO2, because most of the CO2 is actually coming from the oceans. It's not like cause and effect. It's the opposite way. It's the opposite way. Yeah, there is a correlation, but it's not CO2 that causes warming. It's warming that leaves it open for more life to be created. As a matter of fact, during warming periods, mankind flourished. If there's a cold period, we get all screwed up, to tell you the truth. But I think that there's going to probably be enough technology to overcome this, no problem. And it's not going to be like a bad thing, necessarily. And I'm not into these. I don't like putting out scary drama videos to freaking get views and stuff like that, but I try to examine some of these subjects, and I don't think this is anywhere out of, like, say, some kind of remote possibility. The mini ice age coming is a definite. the thing is, where there's a question is it actually going to be a major ice age? And nobody's really saying this, but I have to go back to that one chart because we're actually 500 years late on the next major interglacial period. Now with Alaska, those glaciers, you're going to see those glaciers melting during a major ice age or a mini ice age in Alaska, because in that there's a few sections in the world that actually get warmer. But you'll see like the, whatever glaciers we have, say in Montana, there's some up there, they're getting bigger. Most areas of the world, Greenland, you're starting to see even glaciarization starting in Scotland. Most areas in the world are going to get a lot more glaciarization. So, but there's going to be some places that are going to show less. And I also want to state this. When ice is growing in the Antarctica, what happens is it grows and grows. Ice expands. And what happens is the ice finally comes over the ocean, where it's, in other words, the ice is expanding, and then it finally comes over the ocean, and there's no land underneath the ice mass to support it. Then it cracks off and falls into the ocean, into the water. And the major media is like trying to tell you that means the ice is melting. No. The ice glaciers crack off and fall in the ocean when they grow too. But it's been growing and contracting like on schedule for years. It's just a normal thing. Their game is they're trying to get a global carbon tax. I'm going to state right now, that's the whole global warming deal. They're trying to get a global carbon tax to have they have to fund a global government. That's why this whole thing is pushed this way. But it's the exact opposite of what's going to happen. The big question is it going to be a major ice age? But like I said, if you're I don't like cold weather too. I'm in Florida. I don't like cold weather. Okay. Now, I like it a little bit. If it's like for a week. I don't like being in it for months on end. But I realized too that if you actually had solar lamps and say this is your structure here, your geodesic dome, which can withstand, 15 feet of snow or something because it's a dome and it can withstand hurricane force winds, it's not going to blow over. They ought to make all houses like this instead of those stupid rectangle things they make that with the roof collapses. But if you have true solar sun lamps, you will actually get your vitamin D benefits, your beta endorphin benefits, your psychological benefits, and your immune system benefits, all from just artificial sunlight, which is right, it is true sunlight all the way without the cosmic radiation. So there's ways around this big time. And I think it's a handy tip because even if, say, for instance, I can't really say we're going into a major ice age. I think the mini ice age is definite. But, next winter, say, for instance, somebody's viewing this video, they might get a few great tips on, having a good psychiatric outlook on what's going on in the winter, because most of the time people are feeling down in the dumps because they do not have that sunlight on their skin. That actually, everybody says this when they go to the beach. I know you can do it excessively and get burned and stuff, but just a moderate amount of time. When they go to the beach, they actually feel a lot better. The sun is actually doing that. It's producing chemicals in your skin besides the vitamin D, which actually, and I don't know if there's doctors are going to get mad at me at this, but there's other doctors that say otherwise, and it's in the field of orthomolecular medicine, as Linus Pauling coined the term. But you really can't screw up on just getting say 15-20 minutes of direct sunlight a day. You're not going to burn your skin with that, and it's going to produce far more vitamin D in your skin than the recommended daily allowance, which they keep telling they say one thing, and it's I've already got it in my head that can't be right, but I'm not, I study a lot what other doctors say, and I weigh my opinion against all their different opinions, and I come up with a conclusion. But the other thing is, if you're actually going to be doing this kind of treatment, and say for instance you're like it's a wintertime thing and you can't get out there on the beach, and it's the mini ice age, a major ice age, or or maybe when the mini ice age comes, you're probably going to think it's a major ice age, the way things will be going. The only way you actually produce the vitamin D on your skin is you can't be using sunblock, which is the exact opposite of what the current medical community says for most of them. But you can't expose your skin for so long that it burns, because that's bad. But sunblock SPF 30 blocks 98% of the vitamin D production in your skin. Okay, that bears repeating. SPF 30 sunblock blocks 98% of the vitamin D production in your skin. And I know people are going to say, well, it depends. I mean, it was back in the 1920s, everybody seems to look back then and say, oh, all those medical people were just a bunch of idiots and quacks. No, they weren't. They used to actually have solariums where people would just sunbathe, and it goes all the way back to the Greeks and the Olympic athletes and everything. They would sunbathe to make their bones stronger, but also everybody pretty much knows this. It helps the psyche. It helps your mood. That's why you get the hibernation doldrums in the wintertime. You're lacking that sun. So you can get it artificially, and I'm thinking this is not only is there going to be there's going to be a food crisis, and but also there's going to be a health crisis because of lack of vitamin D and other things that medical people don't even know about. I know there's a lot of other things I saw that surprised me that sunlight does to the human body, besides produce vitamin D, and besides the beta endorphins, and besides turn it on the immune system response. Is more to it than that, but I suspect there's a hell of a lot more to it than that. So, you really can't take a magic pill and replace, which even if it's vitamin D3, you really can't replace the sun. So this might be one of the best things to do if we're going into this. We're definitely going into at least a major mini ice age, like a severe mini ice age. We're definitely doing that. No doubt about it. And anybody in a northern climate is in the northern latitudes. I don't know. I personally suspect the best thing to do is actually use the artificial solar light. And it's expensive if you get something called tanning for humans. It's cheap if you get a reptile light. If you get a reptile light, it might only work up to a distance of 12 inches away, and it's not going to be super powerful, but it's maybe $15-20 versus spending hundreds or thousands or whatever, because once they say tanning light, the price, the same item goes up exponentially. Even if it's the same exact item, they just multiply the price by several times. But this is going to be one of the major things to keep in mind of living. If we do have, we're definitely going to have the mini ice age, and it's going to be a strong mini ice age. But if we go into, even that is going to last for like 35 years or more. It's not a joke. But it might be where we're going into a major ice age. Now, I also thought to my head that, maybe the powers that be do know this. I don't know. They can't be that stupid. They can't be that stupid. I know there's going to be people that are arguing with me about this video big time. You don't understand. The government said this. The government said that. They said this. They measured this. I know what they said. I know what they're being. I know who's being paid to say that and all that stuff. And I know the reason behind it. And glaciers aren't going to come all over the United States inside of a few years. It's going to take a long time. I mean, if we all freaking crack the code to longevity and live in hundreds of years, we might see this, but most of us won't, you know. But it's going to be something whereby we can't get over this. We can definitely get over this. There's no doubt about it. And it's not going to be psychologically a bad thing. Like, you know, because I know a lot of times when people hear this, you know, the mini ice age, the major ice age, you know, everybody, because I know, like, you can overdo it in winter. It's kind of neat, you know, sometimes. And as long as you can, say, like, you fly a plane out to a ski resort and you go over to ski and you're like, oh, wow, this is really great, you know. But if you're out there for months and months and months and months on end, you really get sick of the cold weather after a while. You really get, and, you know, just not getting that vitamin D will also make you physically sick. But psychologically, it affects you. Because I have to repeat that. I know I said it several times. But the sunlight on your skin, which means direct sunlight like in the summer, will actually produce beta endorphins in your body. You actually get something that a hormonal type of response that affects the psyche. And there's a lot of other things where even indirect sunlight going through the eye, the retina, like you don't look directly at the sun, but indirect sunlight going through the eye, that also affects the psyche. But, you know, nobody packages that, because like I said, what happened before with solariums, hey, people used to go to the solarium, and, you know, the tuberculosis patients were out there, the influenza patients were out there. They put them out in the sun. You know, they put them out in the sun. The body would produce all these chemicals, not only vitamin D, but probably a lot of the things we don't understand, and it would help heal them naturally. But then they went to magic pills. You know, in the 40s, it went all to, you know, pharmaceutical. So when I'm telling you this about the sun and a link to psychiatric, how you feel, you know, people in the psychiatric community aren't going to like that. And it's like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, because I realize, you know, maybe it's not good. Maybe it's dangerous for me to put this type of information out, because people won't like to hear this, because the people with, you know, have a, you know, financial incentive not to have people go out in the sun for free. You know, what the hell you think? But, you know, it's going to be one of these things where it's going to be vital to surviving the mini ice age, and, you know, it might be a permanent thing. But, you know, again, if there is a major ice age, most of the world is not going to be covered in ice. But a lot of areas of the world will be covered in ice for, I mean, just say forever. And, you know, that's just how it's going to be. But, you know, the other side of that is it's another fresh water supply, right? There might be a way to produce energy with the ice melting. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm just talking. But there might be other uses for this ice besides even fresh water. So it's not like, you know, it's not like a drama story I'm trying to put here, like the end of the world. I'm just saying you're going to have to adapt, change, and overcome. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be, and it's all how you take it in stride, how, you know, it comes out. And, you know, number one thing, too, is if you're not getting enough adequate sunlight, your psyche is going to feel like down in the dumps, because you're not getting all those beta endorphins. But there's a lot more to it than that, and I guarantee you science has not discovered all the benefits of the sun. Where, you know, indirect sunlight hits the retina, indirect sunlight hits the skin, there's too many benefits. And actually, in our modern day society, us being working inside in offices and stuff, it's not just vitamin D, lack of vitamin D, that's causing a lot of health problems. It's probably causing psychiatric problems, depression, and a host of other things they haven't figured out yet. But as usual, they don't like a cheap solution. Just go out in the sun for 20 minutes a day. They want to sell you something. And, if there's going to be an artificial solution, it's going to be artificial sunlight for a time where the earth probably gets a lot colder. So, I don't know. I'm probably the only one that's going to put out a video on this with a different twist, but I'm thinking ahead, very forward thinking. And as far as the mini ice age coming up, it's basically on us now. Even it's summertime up here north in the northern hemisphere, but not the southern hemisphere, they're going to get clobbered. And then when it flips over to the northern hemisphere to winter, it's going to be even worse. And so a lot of what I told you on here about artificial sunlight and vitamin D and making greenhouses and geodesic domes is going to be the way to do it. Because first off, you want to have that positive attitude, and if artificial sunlight is the only way to get some kind of good sunlight to keep that positive attitude and not have to pay a lot of money for psychiatric drugs, that's what you want to do. And there's a whole other science behind even the color light therapy. And I know they call that quackery and it's garbage. Some people say it's garbage, but I've seen a number of studies where the blue light worked a lot with the burns, helped healing the burns. And I don't know if they're using that in a burn centers, but they are using some type of therapy along that lines. And some of the simplest things out there are the strongest. Some of the simplest and cheapest things out there are the strongest. And it gives you a little pause to think, because who knows what the ancients probably really knew. The people that we don't have really historical records of, maybe that was in the Library of Alexandria that was destroyed. There could have been so much knowledge out there, and you never know. Maybe it still exists in the vaults of the Vatican today. I don't know. But there's a lot of simple things out there that are highly, highly beneficial, and they're free. And the sun is one of them. So the sun is actually going to be the thing that's actually, if we understand the sun and artificial sunlight and how to use it, we will survive and thrive in a mini ice age and even a major ice age. It'd be no problem at all.